Today's video we're going to be reviewing Kinobody and what science really has to say about all these hormones and the changes in fluctuations of hormones during intermittent fasting. Is it good for you? Does it help you build muscle? Does it help with fat loss? All these kind of things. We're going to all go through that in this video, providing scientific context. And towards the end, I'm going to give you my personal experience and opinion when it comes to intermittent fasting. Now, when it comes to YouTube and what it really is, it's kind of like short 10 to 20, no, I'm lying, 5 to 10 minute videos on kind of how to solve simple problems, and then, like hour-long videos how to solve complex problems. Now, the problem with this is that some things get oversimplified and the true meaning and the true science of something gets lost. So when it comes to something like HGH, which is human growth hormone, right? During intermittent fasting, it goes up. Some studies even show to say it goes up by 300%. Now that is quite a big and significant difference. 300%, that's 3 times more, and it can go up to that and above. But people aren't told the full story of what human growth hormone actually does, because human growth hormone is associated with many things. Things like some people associate with growing muscle. It's associated with living longer, being youthful, things like that, having great skin, all those kind of things. Now, when it comes to intermittent fasting, people are like, can you build muscle on it? Some people are like, yes, it even helps you build more muscle than regular eating patterns and diet, because you get an increase in human growth hormone and different hormones. Now, it says you have an increase in human growth hormone. Right, we're going to use a graph to explain this. Right, here we've got muscle protein synthesis, abbreviated to MPS. That's basically you creating more muscle. And we have your hormone levels here on the x-axis. You got low, physiological. Physiological means your normal levels that's capable in a human being. This is at the end of physiological here. That's the maximum you can produce normally and naturally. We've got super physiological, which means that you're taking, illegal supplements, things like that, and getting exogenous forms of that. Exogenous forms means that you're not getting it naturally and you're taking it from outside sources. So, for example, testosterone, known as an exogenous form, is known as steroids. So I'm going to use the word exogenous so if we can just understand it comes from an outside source that's not produced naturally. So now, going on to back to the graph and what is actually going on here. Now, when it remains in this normal level here of physiological, what you can produce, 300% is somewhere here, right? It's at the higher end, and that's at the maximum end of what you can naturally produce. Now, the thing is that even at super physiological levels, it's not going to do this, right? Your muscle building ability, muscle protein synthesis is not going to go up with the increase of human growth hormone. That's the mistake people make, and that's what people aren't told. It's not you guys' fault, because you guys simply weren't told this fact when it comes to intermittent fasting. The thing is, it's quite linear. I mean, having a good amount of human growth hormone is great, because it helps you, in layman's terms, helps you live longer, because it helps with things like longevity and all those kind of things. And really, it's good to keep up high levels of human growth hormone, but it has almost zero causations to muscle protein synthesis, right? That's very important to keep in mind, and it is good to have high amounts of that, but it's not going to help with building muscle and getting bigger, right? That's the first myth busted. Now, get to a more interesting one. Testosterone. Right? We all know that guys with steroids taking exogenous amounts of it have super physiological ranges of testosterone. They have huge muscle mass. They can gain it very easily. And we all know, we've seen, our grandfathers, grandmothers, whatever, old people having decreases in muscle mass because they have this decrease in testosterone, which leads to decreased muscle mass. Now, what is this? What's happening here? There's no data points here. We cannot make this linear correlation all of a sudden, because we are missing the points here in the physiological range, what we can naturally produce, right? People here, they're given steroids for a good reason, because, it's low and it's unhealthy and they need that extra boost because obviously suffering from something. But here, when we're in this range here, Here's physiological, right? Say your body can produce more testosterone. It's not going to make a difference in muscle mass, in muscle protein synthesis here. This is where you start taking steroids. This area here is where you start taking steroids, and when you start actually seeing those results of extra muscle protein synthesis due to the extra and super physiological amounts of testosterone. But here, that's when you see when you have extremely low amounts. For the most part, most of us are here when we have this normal amounts of testosterone, right? And it going from here to here, that increase is only going to have an increase of things like confidence, courage, bravery, all those kind of things like that. It's not going to have an increase, right, in muscle protein synthesis like we see here in the super physiological range where people are taking steroids to get that big, right? Not all of us are taking steroids, so this is completely irrelevant to us. For the majority, this isn't a video about medicine or all those kind of things, so this is irrelevant. This is what we want to focus on in here. We're not going to see increase in muscle protein synthesis. Of course, there's other health benefits from going here to here, but in terms of muscle protein synthesis, it's not helping us in any form or way. And a lot of things like diets and all these, supplement companies are like, increase testosterone. Here are some pills. Take this, increase testosterone, blah, blah, blah. These foods increase testosterone. Look, it's only going to affect you in this range here, unless there's serious problems, you can be here. Unless it's taking steroids, you're here. But for most of us, we here. And in terms of muscle mass, it doesn't really matter. Then we have insulin, right? Insulin is so important because people just correlate insulin with gaining fat. People are like, oh, okay, insulin resistance. Okay, people with high insulin resistance have lots of fat. True, but they didn't hear this part. When you are insulin sensitive, when your body is sensitive to insulin, your muscles are sensitive to insulin, which means it takes in a lot of that glycogen, it takes in all that sugar and it puts it in your muscles and then it saturates it, and then when you work out, you're able to lift more. Other thing, when you're insulin sensitive, your fat molecules are more insulin sensitive, which means the same rule applies to muscles where it saturates itself with glycogen and sugar. The same thing happens. Those fat molecules get saturated with the sugar and it turns into fat, and your fat cells get bigger, therefore you get fatter, right? But I mean, it's going to be sharing in between, and same thing with insulin resistance. I mean, the main point I'm trying to get across here is that all these changes in hormones is that, look, at the end of the day, the net effect, that is what needs to happen here, a net effect. Because when you're going 16 hours, right, of fasting, and you go 8 hours of feeding, what is important here? Here you're going to build out the insulin sensitivity because you're not releasing any insulin, because you're not eating anything. Here you're going to release a huge amount of insulin because you're going to be eating a huge amount at one time. That's the thing. Now it's this here, all this glucagon released here is going to be offset by the amount of insulin here. The thing is that glucagon is the opposite of insulin, right? They have opposing effects. They're antagonistic hormones, right? So let's say, I don't know, give this random units just for simplicity's sake, but not actual. Say you have 10 glucagons released and 10 insulins released. 10 minus 10 is equal to 0. There's no net difference. This is what happens. Net difference, that is the only thing that matters. Net difference means, you get your offsets. I mean, you get your total amount minus, subtracted by your offset, gives you 0. 0. That's this thing. Let's also take with estrogen and testosterone. So you have 10 testosterone, 10 estrogen. 10 minus 10 is 0. You can have a net effect, right? So when you want to increase testosterone, you see things like decreased estrogen. Why? Because it naturally increases testosterone, because then that number will be brought down to 5, and then you're left with a net effect of 5 more testosterone. That's kind of just a simple way of thinking about antagonistic hormones and its effects. The same thing with insulin and human growth hormone. They have that same relationship. When you have this huge offset of insulin here, all that human growth hormone here is going to be net effected to 0. It's all about the net effects here. That is the main thing that exists here. Because here, right? You're going to have human growth hormone releasing all the time. But the thing is, it's offset by all the insulin because we're eating, constantly every like 3 to 4 hours in a normal diet. That's why we don't have these huge, massive increases at any one point in time, right, during the day to have a 300% increase. But at the end of the day, if you're on a healthy diet, you can have a net amount, right? Your human growth hormone minus insulin, you get a net effect of 2, right? Instead of this case, you have huge amounts of human growth hormone and then insulin, and you're netting 2. That's not the point. The whole point of being on a healthy diet is that you're netting good amounts in the certain hormones according to your goals. That's the whole point. It's about the net effect of what's going on in your body. Now, in a more subjective way, moving slightly away from the science, but not completely, what's happening with people psychologically, right, with fasting and things like this, is that this fasting period here, you will lose fat. You will lose tons of fat because you're going to go through ketosis, which is burning fat and using that as a fuel. Right? You will lose fat here. Say you lose 10 grams of fat using random numbers. Here, when you're eating, when you're feasting, and you eat, and when you're calorically maintained, when there's no caloric deficit or surplus, when you're going to put on 10 grams of fat, what's the net effect? The net effect is 0. 0 is the net goddamn effect. It all matters about the net effect. Here you're going to burn fat here. You're going to burn it. But here you're going to put it back. You're going to put it back right here in this feasting period. The only thing that matters is caloric deficit. The eating window, none of that's going to matter. But it can help you with calorie control because a lot of people can't eat a whole lot at one time. A lot of people can't eat a lot of food in 8 hours. That's some people. Some people can eat themselves to death in 8 hours. That's the difference, right? If you're one of those people who can't eat a lot and your stomach gets full very quickly, this can help you with your calorie control very easily, very nicely. You start eating less. Naturally, it'll put you at a caloric deficit because it helps you control your calorie intake. That's the whole point. And your net effect, the net effect of calories means that you're going to have a deficit. You're going to be at a negative amount of calories and your body needs to take that from the fat. And it won't be replaced by your feasting or your feeding window. That's the most important thing you want to take away. Now, something very dangerous. You see at the beginning of this video, I mentioned eating disorders. This can create a very, very bad association with food. Excuse me if I spelled this wrong, but binging. It creates the cycle of binging. Let's say up until here, right, you're fasting. This is your fasting cycle. Right? What a lot of people do is that slowly but surely this happens. I've seen this with a lot of people. I did this myself. A lot of people do this, and the thing is, it's a very common thing. For people try to control their calories and they try to experience this huge amount of pleasure that they get from eating, but they're still fasting and be like, okay, this binging is fine just because I'm offsetting it by the fasting. No, that is developing such a poor psychological relationship with food, and it's very bad for your body, and it creates metabolic damage. That will go into another video. Or metabolically, you adapt in such a way that's not going to help you lose fat and build muscle. But basically, it creates this kind of binging cycle where you try and increase the window of your fasting so that when you come home or whatever, you can just eat as much as you want and eat as much until you're full. So it becomes a cycle of binging. Here's all your fasting. You fast for this entire time right here. And then here you just go haywire. You just eat until you're full and pass out. So we covered that, hormonally, the net effects are almost 0. Fasting-wise and feeding-wise, you will burn fat, but it's offset by what you do in the feasting window. And if you don't cut calories, it's not going to help you unless it helps you control your caloric intake so you can create a caloric deficit. Now we go into how to do that control, and it's very important to do a controlled caloric deficit, otherwise you're going to screw yourself over with metabolic damage. And yes, it's a real thing. Some people tell you it's not, but it actually is. Scientifically it is. So we'll talk about that in another video under the name metabolic adaptation. But for this video, intermittent fasting, right? And when it comes to people promoting diets, you want to look at the science and what science has to say, because at the end of the day, anyone can read about something on the internet and regurgitate it to you on the internet. Anyone can do that. I can go read an abstract on why intermittent fasting is so great and I can shove it down your throat. It is so easy. Anyone who can read can do that. Well, guess what? Well done. Thumbs up to you. You can read and regurgitate it in a video and you can get 1,000 views or 100,000 views or 1 million for it. Well done to you. Well done. The disappointing thing is doctors are even saying that there are some benefits. Human growth hormone protects you from losing muscle mass. Ugh. No. It may have some kind of correlation, but guess what? There's different things affecting you. And if you are in a state of ketosis, which is a different topic. But the thing is, you need to look at the science first. And science says, you know what? If you want to build muscle, intermittent fasting is not for you. If you want to lose fat, do it in whatever way you want, just as long as it involves caloric deficit. No one cares whether you're doing it to ketogenic, Atkins, intermittent fasting. As long as you're creating that caloric deficit wherever you want, and as long as your psychological relationship with food is still intact, you're okay. And you're not getting any bad metabolic adaptations such as metabolic damage. That will go into the next video. I hope you guys learned something useful from here. I have made lots of mistakes when it came to this. Intermittent fasting, you saw that binging cycles, all those kind of things. I got into it, I lost a lot of muscle mass. I was much bigger than this. Now this is what you get, deflated gains. Yes, this all deflated. That's why I'm looking so small. Because I made these mistakes, and I don't want you guys to make these mistakes. People say you can build muscle in intermittent fasting. No, it's not the most efficient way. These people have mature muscle mass, they're outliers, blah blah blah. That's why these people are being called and taking steroids, because people have tried to do it. I have tried. That's why we say these people are on steroids, because we don't know how they do it. Alright, that's because for most people this stuff is not going to work. Stick to the normal stuff. Stick to the stuff that has studies and science and evidence behind it. Stick to that and you'll be a-okay. Hope you guys learned something useful. Check you guys in the next video when I talk about metabolic adaptations.